From We Are Spectacular, this is the Spectacular Marketing Podcast, a podcast about everything brand, marketing, digital and social for the food and drink industry and beyond. So this week you find me not out and about in restaurants or between meetings or even working from home. I've actually just left the doctor's surgery, but don't worry, nothing too bad. Basically, I've been told that I've got something called text neck. And what that means is it's a very millennial disease and it's probably going to come to a lot of us from staring down at my phone far too much. I've just installed an app called Moment, which actually records your screen time. And from a Match Pint stat, it said on average, we look at our phones 220 minutes per day. Actually, I'm averaging between 7 and 8 hours per day. Obviously, it's all part of agency life and running a business, but we're all addicted to our phones and we're really checking and have that anxiety when the notifications come through. Thinking about that as a marketer though, it's actually a positive, because if everyone is looking at their phone non-stop, then it's a huge opportunity for everyone listening, whether you're a marketer or a business or any part of the food and drink industry. If the attention's there, all you need to do is deliver the right content. Content to entertain and content that really will get that call to action to get you that sale. Maybe not initially, but over time through loyalty and building that relationship up with that customer. This week, I had the great pleasure of speaking to Mark Weir. Mark, we've known for a long time, and he's actually just joined We Are Spectacular as Spectacular Socials Managing Director. Mark's done a sterling job over the last 7 or 8 years, working with brands like Gourmet Burger Kitchen, DF Mexico, Jose Cuervo Tequila, Kraken Rum, and many, many others. Mark actually doesn't future gaze in this podcast, actually talks about the here and now, the practicality of execution that really will help, hopefully, most of you listening. If you apply Mark's thinking and Mark's tips and Mark's experience to what you're doing, hopefully you'll have great success. I hope you enjoy what Mark has to say. I certainly did. And Mark will also be featuring in future podcasts, not least one around how to handle a social media disaster. Enjoy this episode and I'll speak to you soon. It's my great pleasure to welcome Mark Weir, Spectacular Social's very own Mark Weir, to the Spectacular Marketing Podcast. Hi, Mark.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. We've picked a rather interesting venue for today's podcast.
Yeah, it's colourful.
Which is my London crash pad. And due to Crossrail and its drilling and me forgetting to book the recording facility, we're in the very characterful kitchen.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah,
we're in a kitchen.
It's a food lover's kitchen.
Oh, this is the
Yeah. There's lots of great cookbooks and Paul Bocuse and lots of great things up there. So I need to check those out one day. I usually come in here and have a pot noodle and go back out again. So yeah. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about social media and the social media world, according to Mr. Mark Weir, which is going to be a real treat for me alone, but for hopefully you guys listening as well. So just a quick intro about Mark from my perspective. So Mark sort of came into my life, or we crossed paths, actually through a really strong recommendation. So I was watching a speech by Alistair from GBK, Gourmet Burger Kitchen, and he was talking about what you do in a social media disaster, which they had that you might know about or might not, but I'm sure we'll touch on that today. And he just was basically saying there's a guy that is like the social media Batman and his name's Mark Weir. And so after Alistair's speech, he went up and said, "Hey, how you doing? And well done," and blah, blah, blah. Also, can you put me in touch with Mark? So we caught up a few times about doing some projects. First project was Costa maybe? Yeah. So we worked together on that. We'd also, checked each other out. And then what was lovely was you gave me a bit of a wee distress call one day where you were just like, yeah, it's getting a bit lonely being a one-man band, and, can I, maybe come and join? And yeah, we worked that out, and, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made, bringing you into the company. And the real joy for me is, like, you just operate brilliantly on your own. Every client seems over the moon with, everything that you do. And yeah, you're just a real amazing addition. And, we've done many training courses together, worked on pitches together, won great business together. So just thank you for all that stuff.
Gee, thanks. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We are Spectacular. You've got a lot of good clients coming in that clearly want something different.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was exciting to join the team. And I think it was that Costa Court. Like, we had to create an entire year's worth of content. 200 social media posts for Costa. And I've never been asked that amount of content before. But working with the guys at We Are Spectacular and just seeing how they operated, I was like, wow, they clearly know what they're doing. And I was like, well, I could do with
hang out here.
Yeah, I could hang out here and,
So, yeah, but anyway, the more important thing is really getting a bit of, your points of view and your knowledge, and, and sharing it with people out there as well. So I guess, the best place to start would be, how the hell do you become a social media guru?
Yeah. Oh, that word is so bad. I don't know what social media guru is. Guru and ninja, all those words are horrible. Just social media dude or guy or person is fine.
There we go.
It's a funny one. I fell into this business by accident in 2010. I worked for GBK's head office, for Gourmet Burger Kitchen's head office for 5 years. I was in operations. I was their openings manager, so I opened up about 30 restaurants across the UK. Mm-hmm. Great job. You see a lot of the country. You're working with people. Crazy job because of the hours. But in 2010, I felt like I needed a break. So I left the business and had 5 months off. And then out of the blue, the managing director at the time just rings me up. And he just says, hey, can you do our Facebook page? And I said, what does that mean? Remember, this was 2010. This was, it was all kind of new. Facebook's probably been around for 2 or 3 years at the time. And he just said, look, our marketing lady is gone and we need someone to do this. I said, yeah, sure, I'll take a look. And it was a good time because back then there were no rules. Businesses were just starting to figure out how to work it. So I just was like, fine, I'll do this. And over the 6 to 12 months, I looked at it and was posting photos and writing copy. And because I knew the brand inside out, I knew the food, the people, the culture, the staff, everything. I was able to, write positively about the brand online. And it worked. And they loved it. And then they're like, hey, can you do our Twitter account? I'm like, what's Twitter? They're like, you'll figure it out.
That?
Yeah, what's that? So I looked at Twitter. And again, it's fairly new. This is about, 2011. So I just figured out how to work Twitter. And then
just on Twitter, though, just as a quick aside, I remember being on a plane, maybe around that 2010 time or something. And Twitter was mentioned in an EasyJet magazine.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's the first time I'd ever really heard of it. And I was kind of looking at it and I was thinking, maybe it was before that, but I was looking at it and I was like, I thought what it did was when you got the app or whatever, it automatically posted what you were doing.
Ooh.
This is where my head went to.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not quite sure I'm ready for that yet, you know? But then obviously once I found out what it was, but at the time, and it kind of put me off for a few months because it wasn't quite brilliantly explained what it was.
Yeah.
And it's like Vero now. And it's just like, well, what is it exactly? And it takes a little while to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. I think now we've got, if you look at the 3 main platforms, they're clearly defined. Yeah. And they have, Instagram.
So you mean MySpace?
Yeah, exactly, those guys.
People.
My AOL account and Hotmail. If you Twitter, Instagram, Facebook have got defined markets. Anyone else coming in like Vero, they have to then be something new. So, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. I didn't know. And the best thing about GBK back then, and even now, was they trusted me and they were like, we don't know what's going on. Can you just do it? I was like, fine. And and now I'm still running their accounts.
You're still trying to work it out.
Still figuring it out. And this is the thing is the best thing is you're constantly learning and moving and trying to come up with new ways to say the same thing, and that's the challenging aspect of this job. Yeah. But they have trust in me, and that's one of the key elements for anybody doing social media for a brand is they have to have the trust of that brand.
Yeah.
If you're writing something and it's having to go through 6 levels and all the way to the top before it gets signed off and all the way down, you're not going to be able to react to things which are trending and spots and whatnot. So it worked out well, and then obviously they asked me to do Instagram, and on the back of what I was doing with them, I managed to get more business. At one time I was running 8 different brands, which is pretty crazy. You have it's a lot of different personalities going on.
You had some great brands though, right?
Yeah,
Do you want to name
absolutely. So I was doing the Kraken, the dark rum, Black Spiced rum, Jose Cuervo. I worked for DF Mexico, which was the offshoot of Oaxaca. A bunch, coffee shops, pizza places, the works. Good, strong brands. And if your brand is strong in the real world, it makes doing it on the social media world a lot easier as well.
And the product.
And the product, I think I've been very, very lucky in that instance that, people have approached me and they've been good people, but also they've had a great product. Yeah. If your product in the real world is not so hot and it doesn't have a good reputation, you will struggle to take it online. Yeah. Whereas if it's wonderful in the real world, you're already at an advantage.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So just getting into it then, we were thinking about, small businesses, in food and drink mainly, because, we get asked a lot. And to hire someone like you, can maybe be a little bit above budget for some places. How can startups compete with the big brands on social media? What do you think about that?
Well, startups do have an advantage because the bigger brands will have, they'll have a set personality type, or they'll have, they'll want to sell more than they'll actually want to tell stories. If you're going out there as a small brand, as a startup or whatnot, you need a personality, you need character. And this is in everything you do, in your photography, in your copy, because these are the things that work. If you're just trying to constantly sell on social media, we see that doesn't work. That's the mistake multiple brands make. So you've just got to have someone you trust that has the personality that can then place that into every single post you put out. And I mean all of them. Like you can't just go, I have to post 7 times this week, so I'm just going to mail it in. That's where you fall over. You've got to value everything you put out there. So just find the personality which is your brand and then translate that online and see if you can make some noise. That's probably the best advice I could give you. Yeah. It's hard though. It is hard out there. So you've just got to find a way to cut through all of the noise. And
then, the other thing I was thinking about, and again, I'm thinking about people like, lovely Lizzie Barber at Hush and Hashi and all that. Yeah. So she's running in Cabana. So she's running multiple brands. I know there's teams, but what do you, how do you go about handling that when you have multiple clients on the go? How do you compartmentalize your mind to be multiple schizophrenic?
Yeah, it can be a little scary. Well, I mean, not the nightmare, but I have done this before where I was running, I think, maybe 5-6 different brands. And I tweeted about burgers from the coffee shop. And, just because I got the wrong account, I was in transit or whatever, tweeted. Within 30 seconds, the owner of the coffee shop texts me and he's like, hey, bro, we don't serve blue cheeseburgers, ha ha. And I'm like, oh, man. So, he was clearly following what I did. You need to set parameters because this job, social media doesn't stop. It's 24/7. The only way you're going to survive is if you put some parameters around things. So you say, hey, look, we're going to tweet, from this, if you are a larger chain and you have a lot of restaurants and, you say, well, we're going to respond to customers from this hour in the morning till this hour at night. Yeah. And anything afterwards, you leave till the day. If you don't do that, then you end up going crazy. Yeah. Back in the day, my friends would say I was a total jerk because I was new at this and I felt like I had to respond to people at all times. So I'm responding to tweets at 10 o'clock at night. I'm out at the pub with my mates and they're like, can you get off your phone? I'm like, no, I have to respond to this. I mean, the person probably won't worry too much if they get a response the next day. Yeah. So put some parameters in place and then put structure around it. So I have content calendars for my clients and I'm like, on this day I'm running this thing, on this day I'm doing this shoot. And that just allows you to, put a semblance of, normality to the madness, because it can get a little confusing when you're running all these different brands.
One person I remember talking to, they were saying that they actually hired like interns, like one in America, they had someone doing Europe, and then they had someone in Asia, so that they could cover that 24/7.
Absolutely. If you are, it's all going to depend on your business. Yeah. If you are a 24-hour, let's say you're Nike or Adidas or whatever, you need to be online 24 hours. So I forget the brand, maybe a telecoms brand over here, that they set up a second office in New Zealand, which is where I'm from, in Tauranga, lovely spot, shout out Tauranga. And so their night responses are handled by somebody during the day in New Zealand. That's brilliant. But it's going to depend on your business. Does your business require 24-hour responses? Yeah. Does it require, 12 hours or 9 hours or whatnot? Yeah, so, depends on who you are.
Yeah, and I think it's so easy to just, be constantly scrolling to answer to, it's quite a tough thing. What about the same message across multiple brands and also multiple channels? So trying to think of an example. So maybe it's a pub group.
Right.
And what they would do is then for all of their pubs, so there's, I don't know, the White Horse, the Red Lion, the whatever, but you're actually following all those in the same area, and you see the same creative coming through, let's say on Instagram. What are you thinking on that?
It's a funny one because let's say like any pizza, like let's say it's Wagamama or GBK or Nando's or whatnot, that's going to be the same restaurant in the same part of town. So you basically will have one account that runs everything. Where you have these individual pubs, which are all unique and bespoke, then it becomes a little more difficult. So I think what I'd recommend is there will be certain messages that are going to be right across the entire circuit. So maybe it's menu, food, opening hours, we're showing football or whatnot. Those messages can go out, but they have to be interspersed with, really personal content to those pubs. Because, if you're just seeing the same message across the White Horse, the Red Lion, and all these other colourful names, you're like, well, this is being written by head office. Brands have to understand that social media users are pretty clued up. They will spot. Oh, first of all, they'll spot when you get an apostrophe wrong. Thanks, Twitter.
The angry words, as you call it.
Oh, they let you know. And also, if you are replicating content and just jamming it out there, they'll turn off pretty quick. Yeah. You just got to take the time. And if you take the time, you see it work and you see the results.
And then, on the different channels then, are you able to sort of talk about what you feel the differences are between each channel?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The three channels I deal with in particular are obviously Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and they all really do have a very specific place. And what I find is everybody has a favorite, and they have one that they think is kind of okay, and then they have one that they can't stand.
What's your favorite?
My favorite's probably Twitter.
Yeah, I think
because it's the hardest to get right for a client, but it's also, if you get something that works, it's really rewarding when you see you're able to get them and that short format as well, which really challenges you as a writer and as if you're trying to come up with any sort of creative. So that's how it works. They just all have, Facebook is what I call a notice board. It has a feel where you'll post something up and then you can see everything happening underneath. Instagram is just like a double tap love fest.
So for the kids out there, what's a notice board?
Sorry. Yeah, it's a really good. Okay, so a notice board is
a big piece of cork.
Yeah, exactly. So Facebook for me is a notice board where you put things up, you can pin them, but you can see it's very easy to see the conversations happening underneath, the sharing, the liking, the whatnot. Instagram is just a double tap love fest for its images, but don't forget the caption. The caption is crucial. A lot of people, or a lot of brands will think that's not as important, but trust me, it is. But it's more of just like double tapping and scrolling. Whereas Twitter is what I just call the Wild West, where anything goes, and it's crazy out there. But that's the challenge of it, and that's probably why it's my favorite.
I think Twitter's it's a tricky one. It's probably my least favorite, weirdly. I really enjoy Insta. I'm really getting on with that. Yeah. But we're all still learning as well. Where I was even putting some ads up for this podcast, and it, back to what you've always taught me as well, which is good caption, picture, no text on the picture,
Yeah.
So I put something up with, some image, some text on the image, and then Facebook's come back going, I would really do this.
Yeah.
So, it's there to, it's got your back automatically as well to, to sort of help, it's a really good thing. And then thinking about, the personality side of things then.
Yeah.
So when you're scrolling through and you stop to read something or see something, or, the tone of voice, the tone of look, how do you go about that?
I felt like, for example, with Gourmet Burger Kitchen, that's the one that I started with 7 years ago. Now it's just this like incredibly geeky alternate version of myself. And over the years, what's interesting, Mark, is I was thinking about this. If I can go back and there's sort of 7.5 years of I can roll back. That's you can trace my personality or my copy and my photography changed that entire time. If you've got too much time on your hands and I'm sitting there one day just scrolling back through, but you can see it develop. The one thing I'd say is, and this is something that took me a while to get my head around, is that you need to understand that if you are writing copy for an online brand or shooting their photos or doing that, it's a part of you. And once you're comfortable with that, then it can really come out.
Yeah.
So the brands that I run, the copy I write, it's a part of me, but as that brand. And then you're like, okay, cool. Then I can really relax and start to get the copy right.
Yeah.
At a more sort of, maybe technical way, you can look at certain words. You can use certain, like we always break down for We Are Spectacular when we have clients coming in, the tone of look, as in how's the photography going to look, how's it placed, the colors we use, the lighting, what angles we shoot from, all that sort of thing. And then so you can put that in the image. And then the copy, you might be like, right, we're writing short, sharp sentences and we're coming from this angle and we want to sound like this, or we're more descriptive, we're more flavorful. Get those things down and then put them into your head and then they will start to emerge. Yeah. But it's the copy is, it is key.
I think some clients just need to relax as well, as you're saying. And if it does come rigidly from a tone of voice book alone, then it's going to be bland and you're going to see through it.
Yeah.
And I think it's like one of those things like, I don't know, funnily enough, I always think about Morrissey when I think about this, where, he's got an enigma about him and brands have an enigma about them, or they did. But if Morrissey was an up-and-coming band person now, he wouldn't get to be the enigma that he is now, because the access to him was limited, like it was with brands, because there was only one exclusive interview, wouldn't do much TV, you only saw him on stage and then you'd only know him for the big statement that he made.
Yeah.
And to me it's always similar with brands as well, like we're so up close and personal, we know everything that they do, and at the end of the day it's got to be human.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that people buck against that, because they're like, oh no, but we need to be always in this state, always in this tone. No, but if you're posting 2, 3, 4 times a day across different channels, plus you're replying, plus you're doing, I think there's got to be a bit of relaxation around it, that the core is still there.
Yeah.
But and someone I think about a lot actually is Vicky O'Neill. So Vicky's one of our peers, I suppose, and Vicky was the head of marketing at Wagamama. And she also went across to Giraffe as well when I was at Yo Sushi, and I just always loved it. Was her, but also she was the brand and representing the brand. That can be tough because if that person leaves, there's an issue. But for the time that she was there, I mean, it was one of the most followed, one of the most engaging, and she would spend so much of her time, a disproportionate amount of time, growing that community way ahead of its time than what it was. And it was stuff like she missed the bus this morning. Yeah. But she'd lead up to then you got a free coffee when you got to Giraffe maybe, but it was more entertainment and engaging than it was, we've got a Mother's Day menu, which is just bollocks. Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And this is the thing. I think a lot of brands are scared to even go that route. I find most brands on social media are terrified. Because they're constantly trying to sell, and they're afraid to say things a little bit differently, which are off brand. Whereas if you take your message and tweak it and put a little bit of personality, honestly, guys, just try it. Try it tomorrow. Tweet something and put a little bit of your personality in it, whether it's a movie quote or a song lyric or a hashtag, which is something. Put it in there, and you will see the reaction you get will be like, oh wow, there's something going on here. As long as it doesn't jar with your actual brand. The other thing is, if one of my rules is if I'm writing a tweet or a copy for a client or whatnot, if it makes me smile, then it's gone, it's out.
Yeah.
Because then it's having that effect on me. If I'm giggling, if I'm laughing at my own stupid joke, then I'm like, right, this really, then I'm engaged. So all you're doing is you're hoping that other people will be as well. And if you've built your audience the correct way, they will be. But yeah, you shouldn't be afraid of putting that personality in there, because that is going to separate you from all these other schmucks out there who are basically just trying to sell stuff nonstop.
And then, thinking about the restaurants themselves, and, what's the best way of bringing that to life? Because for me, I'm getting tired, I think, really tired, of seeing the overhead shots with the food laid out. And so where's your head at? How do you get the standout?
Hardest thing in the world is, the way I describe this job is, you are saying the same thing 1,000 different ways. So I've been tweeting and posting about burgers for over 7 years. So sometimes I wake up on a Monday morning and look at my whiteboard, I'm like, okay, kind of done now. What do I do? But that's the challenge of the job. You've got to come up with new things. Now, if, for example, we'll talk about GBK again, they have a lot of restaurants, they have a evolving menu, they have specials, so they have a lot of content which I can use. If, let's say, you are one pub, or you are one cafe or one location, you might not have, if as soon as you start a brand, that first sort of 3 to 6 months is like, oh, this is great, because it's all new. And once you hit that 6-month wall, you're like, what do I do now? It's the hardest part of doing this job, is having that conversation over and over. But that's the challenge of it. And when you find new ways to do it, it's really exciting. So you're sick of the overhead, flat lay, all that kind of stuff.
I just think, the thing that we talk about, and a lot, and the two of us and Alison as well at Avocado Social, it's free to do this, in terms of you finding out what content makes you stop. So just the best thing anyone can do is take the phone out right now, scroll through Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever your weapon of choice is, and then you'll naturally stop at something. Interrogate that. Why
did you stop?
And look, it could be an overhead thing. I mean, I saw something for Mac and Wild today, who's a little Scottish restaurant, fabulous, round the corner from our office. And it was actually, what made me stop was not the beauty of the picture, which it was beautiful, but they posted it sort of vertically when I was expecting it usually horizontal, and that alone just made me stop. It was some new crab bisque thing they've got going on, and just all that kind of thing. What can you do just to sort of just have that bit of standout? But it's just getting quite seamless, and some of the shots going up there are just absolutely woeful. I mean, and I'm not a photographer, but I won't put anything up that sucks. It just makes you look bad.
And the thing is, there's no real excuse these days, because the cameras that we carry around in our pockets are pretty good.
Definitely.
They can do a wonderful job. And
the filters, and the editing, and the
exactly. You see all this. It's if you're not putting your social media front and center and caring about, you have to care about every single post you put up there. I mean, I've tweeted, I don't know, maybe 60,000 times on behalf of clients in my life, and I've kind of cared about most of those going out, because it's going to a person that is a customer who has tweeted you for good or for bad, and you are then in a position to win them over. You are then in a position to solve their problems, to answer their questions, add some personality into that, and then you've got somebody. And that's really, you have to care about that. If you're just going, hey, rah rah, bland response, they're not going to care. Okay, it's called social media for a reason. The word is social, so stick that in, and then you'll see some results, hopefully.
Well, it was funny. I actually spent some time with Innocent's social media team a while ago, and great privilege to be with them, and that's what they talked about. And they said the reason they were, still are, I think, so great on social it was a social company.
Yeah.
And the very first thing that happened was asking people to say yes or no, should they quit their jobs to sell these smoothies. Then, once you got to, Banana Towers, the office, it was just pop in any time. If you're a customer, we'll make you a cup of tea. There was a banana phone that the closest person to the phone, even if it was the MD, CEO, whatever, had to pick it up and talk to the person that had phoned. It was then send your stuff in, blah, blah, blah. And then there's if you go into the office, there's they've moved now right enough, but there's crocheted, quilted blankets, sort of cross-stitch kind of, that's then this, image of farms and cows, and someone's taking the time to do that and send them, and it's up on a wall somewhere. You're just but the whole thing is that it's just, the brand was based on being sociable.
Yeah.
And therefore it was quite an easy jump then. To go across and do that, which is fabulous.
Innocent Smoothies are still one of the best on social. They get it right more often than not.
Yeah.
But if you go on to whatever platform you're on, if you go on Twitter and check out Innocent, when they tweet something and then people respond to that tweet, they respond to those responses.
Yeah.
And that's the added value. They're not just tweeting something and then going off for an hour and going, well, I scheduled that tweet, I'm good.
Yeah.
They tweet something funny and then they get stuck into the responses. And a lot of times, good content can come out of the responses to people.
Yeah.
And if you tweet something which hits that funny bone or hits that particular person right on, they retweet it, they favorite it, their friends see it, they bring on more followers, etc. That's how it works. So, they take the time and they see the results. Yeah.
And I guess the real bonus for you is as well, you're a real one-man band in the sense of you're a bit Peter Parker, Spider-Man going around with your camera as well. So, did you want to talk about the kit you have? Any tips to shoot great social images? How do you go about that?
Yeah,
because I think people are lost.
Well, it's funny. You can see I was shooting originally on my iPhone 4S, I think it was, back in the day, back in 2011 or 2012. And then I upgraded to something else. Then I got a bridge camera, and now I have a full frame Canon SLR, which is fantastic. But if you are struggling to take good photos, just two things: composition and lighting. Get your lighting right. Shoot in natural light if possible. You're probably not going to have a massive lighting rig, so get natural light coming into your restaurant or whatever location you've got. And then the composition of how your food is placed. Now, one of the things I do for the clients that I shoot for is I try and shoot live. I shoot in a live restaurant. I probably don't even tell them I'm coming in, and they love me for that. So I'll have customers in the background. I'll have this shit. But what happens is, so hopefully the food looks like the food is, that the customer will receive. What I find with a lot of food brands is their food on Instagram, on Facebook, on whatever, is scientifically perfect in a photo shoot. And trust me, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Let's say I have a picture of a burger and it's immaculately placed and the bun is just this spherical being and the lettuce is crisp and green and whatnot. It looks too good. It's obviously looks too scientific, and I guarantee you the interaction rates on that are going to be half of this dirty cheeseburger that's come out of the kitchen and it's sitting on a plate and someone's poured skinny fries on top of it and there's a big old milkshake in the background and that automatically sets your hunger on fire. What's the difference between those two photos? One looks like something which is real and you have gotten served before and you will get served again and you're automatically thinking, I want this.
Yeah.
And the other one is this false, scientific, over-the-top image.
Yeah.
So, try shooting in a live restaurant. Obviously, you have to have a relationship with the chefs, that they present the food, in a beautiful way. But drop the whole overly scientific angle and make it look like food that you want to eat. Have people in the background. Have things going on. Look at your social media account, and if it's all food or all beer or all pizza or whatever, when was the last time you had faces and the actual customers, smiles from your staff and whatnot? Those things help. They help on interaction.
And I think sometimes it's, test, let the data
tell you. Don't be afraid of doing that. Yeah, for sure.
Put the scientific one up, reared in a lab or whatever. Put the messy, kind of man versus food thing up. And and then put people, then put a mix, and just be curious, and let the data lead what's happening.
Great way to put it, curious, and don't be afraid. Really, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Let's say you put a post up and it only gets 40 likes. Who cares? Put one up again tomorrow. Like, learn from it. I hear, various bloggers or social media accounts that will delete, certain posts if they don't get X amount of likes or whatnot. Who cares? Just start again. Learn from that experience and move on. What will happen is, after a while, you'll get such a feeling for your crowd and your content that you'll know how many likes you're going to get before you even put it up.
And then, something that comes up quite often with, clients and meetings is they're getting good engagement, let's say, good enough, just posting product only all the time.
Yeah.
And they're scared then because they've tried the other things. What would you say to them in terms of mixing up the messaging?
Well, one of the theories we talk about is engage, entertain. So basically, if you post 3 times, they should be engaging, informative, entertaining. And then the 4th post is your sell. So it's one of the theories I work on that, if let's say you're posting, have you tried our amazing pizza? Have you tried our beer? Sell, 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 sell. People will turn off pretty quick. Whereas if you engage, entertain, and inform them and do it in a fun way on 3 posts, then on the 4th one, the audience will let you sell to them. Because they're like, okay, this is fun and rah-rah. But it's all about how you execute it and how you do it. Talking about your product nonstop is difficult. But I think maybe about sort of 3 or 4 years ago, a lot of brands were posting, pics of, cats and, memes and whatever else. And there was a real trend towards that with brands. And now a lot of the brands that are really confident and really out there just talk about themselves, but they just find new and creative ways to do it. But that's, again, like I said, that's the hardest part of the job, is just coming up with new stuff. I
really, really enjoyed, we did a social media course, which is be future podcasts, sort of masterclasses. And you were, it's really funny, you did the, stop being an excited 14-year-old girl, as some of the stuff you've said. And I think that's a great sense check for people as they're writing it, with all the exclamation marks and just this needy, wanting to be loved teenager. Have you tried this? Aren't we amazing? When was the last time? And it's just like, so I don't know, you might want to talk to that a little bit, because I thought that was just really funny.
Yeah, thanks. It was. I noticed it a few years ago where, the thing is, most brands on social media sell the same because all they're trying to do is sell your product. So have a look at your brand. Is that all you're trying to do? Then your audience might not be as engaged. And it felt like all they were doing was this exciting 14-year-old kid who's like, have you tried our amazing pizza? And it's just exclamation points and emojis and everything else.
I love milkshakes. Do you?
Yeah. Okay, so one of the rules I put into place is I never use questions. I never start off a post with a question. Have you tried our amazing this? Have you been to our X? Why? Because it sounds needy. It sounds like you need someone to respond to you and you want the attention and everything else. So just have a look at what you're doing on social. And there's a really simple way to alter that. So go from being the have you, so like saying, have you tried this, to you want this. And it's a little shift.
Well, I think there was something bold, because I think you had a couple of examples, and then you showed one from Hawksmoor, so, Rosie over there, and it was like this, it was an overhead shot, but a beautiful one,
Sunday roast or something, wasn't it?
And it was like, at Hawksmoor, here's how we do Sundays, or something like that. It was just so
bang on the money,
and you wanted to lick your phone or the screen. It was just like, oh my god.
Okay, so that's a really good setup. So imagine, like, that was a Hawksmoor picture. It was a good shot, but they posted up on all of their accounts, I think. And imagine if the caption had said, "Have you tried our amazing Sunday roast? Needy. It's only X amount. Are you going to come down? Needy." It would have had like a tenth of the reaction than the actual copy they used, which was it was something so confident and so out there, which was on Sunday we eat roast, or I forget what it was, like that, but it was so good. And how did they do that? They're a confident brand. They know who they are online, and they're saying to people, instead of "Have you tried this? Can you come into you want this? You want this now." So if you go in with that angle,
and if you're lucky, you'll get a cheer.
And
I think it was a bit of sass.
Now, it's a good point you bring up. It's a really fine wedge of you want this, but not being overly cocky. There's a couple. I saw a trend a couple of years ago where various startup brands were either being overly cocky or overly angry. at everything. And it's easy to be the angry, sort of funny guy on Twitter or the overly cocky, but that doesn't last long.
Yeah.
So it's this very, very fine wedge of absolute confidence in your product, but not being sort of cocky about it. Being like, look, you want this in your life. And it's finding ways to say that without, being an idiot.
Yeah. And then, you've got a lot of pressure on you from your CEO and your managers and all these things as the social media person. What did that post do? What was the ROI? What was it? And actually, a lot of the trends are going towards being more communities focused.
Yeah.
What can people out there say to prove that it's a worthwhile thing to do? When they're setting up communities that's maybe non-salesy.
Yeah, it's gonna so. Let's say you run an air conditioning company, out in the middle of the sticks. Should you be on social media, and what platform should you be on? That's obviously a conversation you need to have, because why would you follow an air conditioning unit on Twitter? If you're in fast casual, if you're in food and beverage, then clearly you need social media accounts. You need to define which ones you're going to be on, and then if you want to see any account that I take on, I'm thinking to myself long game. I'm thinking, okay, so this is where the brand is now. Where do I want them to be in 12 months, 18 months, 2 years? And I want this to be a brand that you end up loving and you want to follow, and then that obviously will lead to hopefully better sales. That's the long game.
Yeah.
And your CEO might be like, forget the two years.
Yeah.
I want to see results now.
Yeah.
So there are ways that you can run things on the platforms that get instant engagement, whether it's competition set up a certain way or social media only promotions. That can say this is exactly what we did on social media. So we did something on social where, we might have done a pizza giveaway for a client or a burger giveaway. If you bring your passport in, only on social media, and then you can see how much engagement you get.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how it works. Now, the one thing I would say is if you run a competition on these platforms, you need to, if you've got a fully engaged, really organic audience, then you're going to hopefully cut through. If you don't, and you set up a competition, you better put some spin behind it, because that will help you cut through and get new people.
Yeah.
But just a little bit of money doesn't cost a lot on Facebook ads, Instagram adverts and whatnot. That can get you the results. Do not put a promotion out there on social media which no one replies to, because you'll look like a loser, and you don't want that to happen.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of things as well that just spring to mind, which is, some of the stuff you've been doing for, some of the clients has been like, their algorithm was a mess and the engagement was low. So I'm thinking there's got to be a mathematical sort of almost fag packet calculation that you could go back and say, well, we've changed your algorithm, from here to here, therefore more people are seeing you.
Yeah.
Therefore, so that there might be something in that. But the other thing I was thinking about just on community was, let's say GBK did something radical. They did a lot of radical things anyway, but let's say they decided to start a new Facebook account which was called Burger Lovers.
Yeah.
Or it was a platform that was maybe to review all of the burgers in your town. And it's just GBK's kind of owning that, but it's not a direct brand thing. Things like that I think are potentially becoming quite popular. And years ago it happened brilliantly. Do you know, it was Toby Carvery.
Yeah.
You know Toby Carvery, the brand? Yeah. So they made this was way back, right? I mean, and it blew my mind. Instead of them going up there and going, Toby Carvery official page, they just launched a page called Yorkshire Pudding Lovers or something like this, right?
Yeah.
And it went, but I mean, it was like 500,000.
Wow.
It was something crazy, right?
Yeah.
And it was just people all going on to show either Yorkshire puddings that they had at their Sunday lunch at a restaurant, or then, stuff they were making themselves, right?
Yeah.
And then the failures and all the fun stuff. And I think brands are missing out on that sort of stuff where, we talked to a couple of brands as well about doing lunch content. And for them, they were wanting their lunch sales to go up. So if they could take the higher ground by being the lunch reviewers, and then it was an entertaining thing to review all the lunches around London or Glasgow or whatever, and then you seed in the odd message about them, I think there's a whole huge opportunity out there for brands that they're focusing on their brand linear.
Yeah.
But I think they could actually go quite lateral with these thoughts.
Absolutely. You can go lateral. You think outside the box. Find ways to talk about your product, which might not directly be your product. I was thinking you were going to go Trojan horse there. That's as in, they set up a page and it has 500,000, and then they just change the name to Toby Carvery. And it's like,
they may
gotcha,
have,
suckers.
They may have, well, it did say Toby Carvery somewhere on it.
Okay.
But, and actually, I think there's, a huge opportunity in, just community groups in general, locally, because people are really sort of trusting those. And I see it in my local area. People come on and they're like, oh, hi, not to be too salesy, but I work at Oaxaca and Brighton. Here's a code if you want. And I just think that's dead smart because it seems so personal, feels so caring, and things like that, which is really cool. So what about the negativity side of things? How do you handle? I think I'd just be in tears. I'd be personally hurt. What do you do? How do you handle that?
It's if your brand is good in the real world, then the chances of you getting more flack online are shorter. I'm lucky. I work with a lot of good brands that have good reputation, so that when there are complaints on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or whatever, they're generally they're okay. But yeah, I've had instances where people have been annoyed or put off by a product, by customer service in store, or for a particular brand, and have tweeted various tirades at all hours of the evening and whatnot. And it's they've obviously they don't realize that there's someone behind the scenes who's replying to this or whatever. And as the social media person who's replying to that, you can't take it personal. You're like, hey, look, this is just someone who's angry or whatnot. But also, if someone is being a jerk, then if I'm blinding at you on Twitter and they're being unreasonable, then why should you reply to them? One of my rules is, for myself, the ironic thing is, I have a Twitter account, but I barely tweet because the last thing I want to do when I go home is actually go on social media. Is I would never tweet anything to somebody that I wouldn't say to their face.
Yeah.
I don't think that holds true to a majority of Twitter or maybe social media users, because it's that thing where you can sort of hide behind a keyboard and say whatever you please, which is incredibly empowering, but it's also a little bit disturbing. So dealing with the negativity, if you are a social media person, again, set a time frame for when you're replying. If it's 9 till 9 or whatever, don't take it personal if someone's cranky. Understand. And this is complaints, and this is I've used to dealing with complaints and operations when I worked back in New Zealand and also here, is there are two types of people who complain. There are people who have a legitimate beef with you, who are like, I'm so disappointed, I want this fixed, and then there are people who just want free stuff.
I'm just thinking legitimate beef is a fantastic name for a restaurant. We should buy that.
Yeah, that's great.
Buy that URL
let's delete.
Right now.
We got to delete this segment so no one else takes it. That's a great idea. So you put them into two camps. And when I was working in restaurants or in operations and cinemas, if people complain, and if they're legit, you obviously deal with them. Those are really your customers you care about because they are disappointed and they want to have a better experience. The ones who just want free stuff, deal with them quickly, just get them out of the way.
There's like professional.
Yeah, now, if they're taking the mic, that doesn't mean you just give them free stuff and tell them to get out. Every case on its merits. But you don't take it personally. And also I've found that because it's difficult to get, tone of voice and sarcasm, irony, or whatever across on Twitter. I remember back in the days I used to reply a little more candidly to people on social media on complaints, and I got flamed for it.
Right.
So now I just have more of a generic response. Yeah. So you just go, hey, hi so-and-so, use the name. Yeah. Really sorry to hear. Please DM us or email us here or whatever, and we'll look into it as soon as we can.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an important thing. In fact, it came up in the office the other day, and it was just like, I personally, I always think it's better to just deal with it on the same platform. So get them off the public.
Get the conversation off social media.
But the first point of call I always try and do, or always did, when I was kind of on the inside in brands, was just say DM me, and then you would follow them, and you can always unfollow them later. But I just thought that was because then, a lot of people say, oh, could you call our contact centre? And it's just like, even more rage, and it's just like, But on that point then, some people that have come in for a little bit of flack over the last few months.
Yeah.
Where Brewdog came out with their pink IPA.
Yep.
What do you think from a social media perspective on that?
It's a funny one because first thing, if you ever run any sort of potentially controversial campaign, I don't think this was their intention, but you have to sort of say to yourself, how much collateral do we have in the bank?
And also, I think you're right. I don't think it was their intention.
No.
So many cynics, or so many people out in the social media world were going, anything for controversy. I think they were trying to be genuine.
I agree.
Do you know what I thought, from a campaign point of view? I didn't instantly get the gag.
That's exactly. I saw a tweet that nailed it and said, if you have to explain your joke, then chances are the joke isn't very good.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it. I think that, if you had to go and then watch their video on Instagram explaining while they're doing this, you're like, hang on, what's going on?
Yeah.
So that's the difficult part. Bearing in mind that social media moves very quickly.
Yeah.
People will see a message. Yeah. And plus, their knee-jerk reaction is going to come quick. And the angriest will be the quickest and the loudest.
Well, Gabby in the office, geez, I've seen an absolute tirade from her. But, I can understand. But I actually just feel dead sorry for him because actually everything about it was robust. It was great women in the company coming up with the idea, bringing it to life. And also, I think just swapping the I for the U, it just was kind of just almost too subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, I actually just feel annoyed for them.
Yeah, and if, so in that instance, if that happens, you have to make the decision. Do you climb back down the mountain or do you stand there and go, no, look, this is what we did. And, we're sorry if you didn't get the joke, but this is how we feel. So they're like, you stick to your guns. Yeah. A couple of things. If you ever have any outrage, I do a social media disaster course.
That podcast is coming up actually.
Oh really?
So,
okay,
so I'll
it's
ready to go in the next few weeks.
All right, brilliant. Yeah. And one of the things I talk about on that, a teaser for the social media disaster one is understand have you done anything wrong, or is social media just angry at you? And sometimes you've done nothing wrong, but it feels like it because everybody's coming at you. If you've done nothing wrong, then you stick to your guns and, tell everyone just to calm down. I had a situation with that, which I'll get to on the future podcast, which was, we had a PR agency going, we have to apologize for this. And myself and the head of marketing were like, absolutely not. We've done nothing wrong.
Well, do you want to trail it a bit? Do you want to see kind of what it was as a headline?
Yeah. It was GBK released this will resonate with you, a Glaswegian menu, which was written by a Glaswegian comedian, and it was to promote their new restaurant up there. It had been sense checked and everything, and it was liked, and then it was released in the store for like 2 or 3 days, and people loved it. But then a certain television show. It was hilarious how they put it. They were like, GBK's new Glaswegian menu, just a bit of fun? Oh, really insensitive. So they loaded the question, and then we got we got hit, and our social media blew up. But I refused to back down on that. I'm like, hang on now, we've done nothing wrong here. So I'll tell you in part 2 how we handle that.
And more GBK stuff.
Oh
well,
man,
right?
Yeah, there's a few things. So
yeah, so we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
There was other things as well, like the Wagamama Christmas sick notice.
Yep.
And then those types of things. Again, any advice for handling that?
I've seen in my experience, if you have a chef who touches his hair, someone could take a photo of that and tweet it to you. If you have a staff member who picks his nose behind a till, you could have someone record that and send it to you. These things can happen. People can capture it. So that Wagamama sick note, for example, obviously it's incredibly unfortunate. It should never have happened. But someone's taken a photo and uploaded it, and the outrage kicks in. When you're in the eye of the storm, it's a pretty lonely place. I've been there a few times. But you just have to, we'll talk about that as far as how to deal with it. It's the storm will pass.
Yeah.
You just get a plan in place. Make sure you have a collective message. And then you go from there. Yeah. And it's, again, understanding when you've done wrong. That was something wrong, so they needed to address it.
Yeah. Or it was pressures of the job that led someone to just do that. You know, and they probably, again, the intent was probably right. and they were just trying to make it clear to everyone it's Christmas, they're
Yeah.
stressed out, they're worried about everything,
Yeah.
you know, and then that's how it manifests itself,
Yeah.
and you know, it's just a shame that these kind of things kind of.
It absolutely is a shame, and also when you understand that everybody has an opinion on Twitter, and you will get crushed, and just that first 24 to 48 hours, you won't win, and also you can't win a conversation in 140 or 280 characters. You just can't, even if you have the best response in the world. Once someone generally is on a pedestal and they're preaching an angle at you, it's very difficult to change them because they're writing that now.
Yeah.
So you just have to assess where you're at and then respond accordingly. Yeah.
I think you know, the other thing for anyone listening and they've not quite got the hang of social media, or they've not really started, or they're about to start, or what's your sort of tips for ground zero, you know, to go about, you know, starting today?
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because I had a thought. Someone messaged me about how Facebook, with the algorithm changes, and how pages are, you know, getting less organic, and various businesses are going bankrupt because now they're not seeing as much of an uptake and whatnot. So one of the things I would suggest is, you know, go across multiple platforms. So first of all, where's your audience? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Twitter? Are they on Facebook? What platform are they on? Are they on Snapchat? So decide where they are. And then go, right, this is where they are. Creating your... it's pretty intimidating. It's still very daunting to create a first message for a brand. So, that first Facebook header, the first post, the first tweet, etc., etc. But spend money building up an audience first. There's no point having this amazing content and it's going out to 8 people. You want at least get it out to 800. So how do you build that audience up? You build it up with possibly some sort of really good aspirational competition or giveaway. You make sure that you can be found. You need to have your Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever handles on your website, because that's how people will naturally find you. Is it on your menu? Is it in store? Can people find you? Is it easy? Is your social media handle the same across all 3 platforms? If it's 3 different ones, you need to make it as easy as possible for people to find you, because people don't have the attention spans. So once you've got that down, then you've got to build the numbers. Once you build the numbers, then you need to engage them, and you need to care so much in those early days about what you're putting out there to make sure that people are engaging, so you keep that algorithm high. So do those things and you're on the right track. To Craig's point about the Facebook algorithm shift, you need to be on multiple platforms, because let's say we're a brand on Instagram and that's all we do. We're Instagram. We're pretty and we have pictures and rah-rah. Let's say Instagram moved the goalposts. Let's say they shut down tomorrow. You're done. Okay, you need to have your fingers in a lot of different pies in case one of them changes. I saw that with a business years ago. Do you remember Facebook landing pages? So before you liked the page, it went to a landing page, which was... Hey, welcome to... Remember those? Yeah. So there was a business... that was years ago. There was a business that emailed me a bunch, and they were like, hey, we specialize in doing this. I was like, okay, that's cool, because it was something you had to have. And then overnight, Facebook were like, yeah, we don't need this anymore. So that business overnight has ceased to exist. So make sure you are on multiple platforms. You can have the same content across all 3 platforms, but packaged differently, different wording, hashtag usage, etc., etc. Just in case, the platforms shift, and also because people aren't all going... Your customers will have a love of one platform over the other. So if you're covering off the big 3 and doing it well, then you're going to be in good hands.
And what about, we get asked quite a lot, people love this question, which is, how many times do you post? What time do you post? Per channel, blah, blah, blah. Any advice on that? Yeah, okay. Understand that there are no hard and fast rules on this. There are none. If you're reading a blog post which says you have to post 3 times a day between the hours of whatever, just stop reading. Just really, it's going to come down to what sort of business you are. Are you a news agency, which is posting news? Then you're posting 7 to 8 to 12 times a day, because it's content, it's fresh new content that you're just repurposing. Are you a sneaker brand? Awesome sneakers, by the way, man. Thank you.
Really,
Jordan 3s.
Yeah, they are super hot. They're really good. You have to figure out, think about it from your the people who have liked your page and your posts. How much do they want to be seeing your content? It depends. What are you selling? So for my brands that are selling food, I'm posting 5 to 7 times per week, so once a day. But I want people to stop when they see this stuff and go, I have to read this. Because I know it's going to have something interesting, something funny, something informative.
Yeah.
There's a reason. So it depends on what sort of business you are. If you're a coffee shop, when are you going to really be talking about coffee at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday, which is this magic hour that people tell, you've got to post it. No, it's coffee.
Yeah.
You're posting at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You're posting at 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. So there's really experiment for when works for you. Yeah. And also just think about when are people on their phones, when are people on their laptops. So, for example, when it snowed across, the entire country, that's social media gold. How do you then repackage the snow into your brand, and how are you getting people on their phones and on their laptops and engaging them?
But again, that just literally became snow blindness. It was like, here's my product in the snow, and it was like, but some people actually did some cool things. I remember years ago, this was an amazing thing. Was snow happened when I lived up in Milton Keynes, and there's a local pub called the Black Horse, which is a peach pubs, and they built a snowman, snow person. And they put that up, and then they said, okay, once this, or it's up for 30, it was like third off your food if you come along, until the snowman snow person melts.
It's excellent, yeah.
But it was a real cold snap, so it stayed for like a few days. So good. I think they were out with the hairdryers.
That's great.
But that sort of stuff, and that was really clever. And I remember Made.com, they actually made a sofa out of snow in one of the parks. Like the whole office got sent out to... And I think it's those ones that are just more clever. If I saw another craft beer dunked in the snow, so, the other day I was going to jump off a cliff.
Exactly.
So
so you get a cultural phenomenon. Like you get something that happens like the snow that comes along for X amount of days. It's social media gold, but I'm always thinking, and this is hopefully a tip for the people who are listening, think the opposite. See, what is everyone else doing? And then go in the absolute opposite direction and try and get some traction with that.
Or at least you go out in your shorts with nothing else on, or send someone in a bikini, just have a play with it.
It's hard to get it right. It's difficult to constantly come up with new stuff, but you will absolutely know when you've nailed it, because you'll be laughing, you'll be excited, you can't wait to post it, and then you'll chuck it up there and no one responds and your heart breaks and you're like, what am I doing? So
and another thing, tell us about the first 5 minutes. You talk about that quite a lot.
So and that comes back to the algorithm change, which was, I think, in 2014. I was running a competition for a couple of brands, and literally the Facebook did their algorithm change and it fell off a cliff. So before we were reaching 30-40% of our audience, and now we're reaching like 5%. And the larger your page, the more they penalise it, etc. Everyone's writing things about algorithm changes and blogs and whatnot, but I'm seeing it. I'm posting every day for various people, and if you have an engaged audience, your organic content, then your organic reach is still going to be good, which is wonderful and very rewarding to see. But that first 5 minutes is the way that I've seen the algorithm work is the more engagement you get in that first 5-10 minutes, the more the algorithm opens it up to people. So you get like, you get comment, share, whatever. Then Facebook's algorithm goes, this is good content, I'm going to open it up to more. And then hopefully they engage, and then they open it up to more. So you want to have content which engages people immediately, because then you're going to have a higher organic reach come through. And I see this every single day. There are sometimes it's a slow burn where you put something up and you're like, this isn't going so well, but then slowly, and then over 2 or 3 hours it builds up. But it's all just coming down. You just want to put up stuff that people like. It really is that. You just stuff that you would engage with. Makes you laugh a little bit, makes you go, cool, now I'm hungry, and now I'm eating this pizza, and how did I end up here? And I'm like, gotcha, sucker. It's great.
And I think it's important that social gets such a hard time where it's tell me, operators and whatnot saying, or even marketers or CEOs or whatever, tell me the ROI on that post, and just sometimes you just won't be able to measure it, and social's got to claim some of the glory if your sales are up, because it's a sum of the parts. And I remember seeing John Lewis, one of the partners speaking, and he was saying, they made such a mature decision about digital, and you see all these businesses that are separating it, going, oh my goodness, we've got our department stores or our restaurants, and then we've got our digital delivery side or whatever it is. But the clever thing that they did was they said, whichever is the nearest store to that sale gets the credit.
Okay.
And it all becomes part of, it's all one.
Yeah.
So they're equally, because, people are partners, and they're equally incentivized to push online as they are in store.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was such a different mindset from what I'd heard, everyone else talking about. I just thought it was so clever.
Yeah.
Because you can't, it's really hard to track every single thing, and I think there's just got to be a certain amount of goodwill in there. And I think it's always that old adage, doing something is better than doing nothing. So you just want to get up there and sort of do that. So, yeah, I mean, we've been having a good chat for about an hour now, so I'm thinking, the listeners might be needing a wee break or something like that. But, yeah, so, I mean, I was just thinking, any final tips for people, on social media that, really get them fired up to, do something different today when they're hearing this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Do something different. Do something that, engages you, like makes you laugh, makes you think this is great. Don't put up a post today which is selling something. How about that?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Because that's what I see most brands doing. Is and I think a lot of this is a lot of social media is being run by traditional marketing teams whose job is to sell constantly. And that's kind of where they fall flat.
Yeah.
So put up something today which is not a direct sell. It's not a have you tried our X, look at our amazing Y. It's something completely different. Find a way to talk about your product which isn't selling it, but which is intriguing, or it's entertaining, or it's funny, or it makes you go, this is good. Throw some personality in there. Throw your favorite movie in there. Do something which is a little bit different. And if you see the difference in the rewards, like you'll get the rewards through the interactions and whatever, you'll be like, okay. And then you're going to be reminded that it's social media.
Yeah. That
it's about people. So put a little bit of your own personality in there. Don't sell something today, guys.
Yeah.
And then you'll probably end up selling something.
That's really a really, really great piece of advice. And, just to sort of end on, backing up what you've said, I heard a podcast the other week, and it was Adam Buxton, who's fabulous. And he was interviewing Brian Eno, amazing music producer and artist in his own right. And he said what he did when he was writing songs was made rules for himself. So he was never allowed to say I in a song, you in a song, or love. And if you think about most songs, they cover one of those three words quite in depth. So if you could, I might even stretch what you've just said, over the next week, actually do maybe 4 or 5 posts that are not selling, find something else to talk about, and then we'll allow you, I suppose, on the 6th or 7th day to post something that, is that sale.
Cool, and I'll add a caveat on that. No questions.
Oh, yeah.
No questions. Stop asking needy questions. And have fun with it, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to take some risks. When I say risks, I don't mean something controversial. I just mean something with a little bit of personality, which is going to actually engage your people and be like, this is good. That's what it's about. Well,
Mark, brilliant hour and brilliant advice. So thanks so much for coming in.
Hey, no worries, man. It's been great.
And we should do this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks so much to Mark Weir for coming in and spending the time to talk to me on the Spectacular Marketing podcast around the here and now, actually, of social media. Some real great tips that you can hopefully go out and execute on instantly. I hope you found the information that Mark gave and that we shared with each other really helpful to you, your job, and also your business. We recorded this podcast on International Women's Day, so it gave us great pleasure to actually talk about some of the everyday heroes that exist in our industry, food, drink, and beyond. Especially Vicky O'Neill, who used to head up Wagamama's marketing, now a successful marketing consultant in her own right, working with great brands like Vapiano and Sticks and Sushi. Rosie O'Meara, who's doing an incredible job, as always, over at the wonderful Hawksmoor. Thanks very much for the hashtag etiquette as well from Rosie. That really helped me out. And then, last but not least, the amazing Lizzie Barber, who is just this great ball of enthusiasm and energy, running brands, marketing like Cabana, Hashi Burgers, and also the wonderful Hush. Congratulations to Lizzie too, who has also just got married not long ago, but on top of that is going to be a published author, so we're all really excited to see what that's going to look like. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. It's a real pleasure to sit down with Mark. Make sure you tell your friends, please subscribe, would really help us get the word out there. Please rate and review on iTunes or on your podcast platform of choice. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Mark McCulloch, and this was Spectacular.